I knew this a little while ago, but like when you get into like the entrepreneur, like the success kind of space online, a lot of entrepreneurs will tell you that you're not rich enough to cook, and genuinely you're not. Unless you're already like a millionaire, you can't afford to cook. You know, people like all the normies on like Reddit think that, oh, they're saving money if they're cooking and stuff. No, because you're losing brain points and you're losing time. It's something that would be hard for me to explain to you till you've experienced this paradigm shift where you're like, oh yeah, my time's actually how I get shit done. And the reason why I'm not successful is simply literally just one reason, is because I don't value my time, because I spend it cooking to save $3 instead of just buying it out compared to the value of the groceries and everything. You lose brain points for cooking, you lose brain points for reading, even productive things. For reading, watching podcasts, for doing work, you lose brain points for watching porn, and especially deciding which porn video to watch, especially when you get to like the 7th page of Pornhub or something, bro. You've lost a fair amount of brain points there. Playing video games especially drains your brain points, and all gamers know this, but a lot of gamers don't like to admit this. When you play games for like an hour or two, think about how much you're actually using your brain. Like, you know, people say like, oh, I'm just playing 1 hour to unwind, just to relax. That's not true. You can say that you like to play video games because it's fun and engaging, but don't ever lie to yourself or to me and say that you like to play video games to relax, because if we did a scan of your brain would not be relaxing. Imagine if we did like an MRI scan or something of your brain. It would not be that your brain's just like quieted down as if you're sleeping, would it? It would be hyper engaged because of the amount of like decisions that you're making to actually be good at this game. So video games drain your brain points at a shocking level. And some guys, unfortunately, they wake up and they play video games like straight away. Like some guy, I mean, they're probably not watching our videos, but some guys wake up and grab their phone and like go on some mobile games straight away. Reserve your brain points for the most important tasks. That's just a general theme that you should try and stick to now and forever. Reserve your brain points for the most important tasks. Now, here is an interesting point. Try to increase your baseline brain points. How many brain points you start with per day. Let's say you start with 50 per day. It would be nice if you instead started with 90 per day, wouldn't it? Can you think of how you would increase how many brain points you have per day? Can you think of what it would be? Your health. You know, you've always heard like, oh yeah, health is the priority. Like every person says that, but no one actually makes it a priority, right? You might think you do, but it's like when you open up the can of worms to realize what affects your health, you realize that you could genuinely be working on your health for like 14 hours a day, right? So everyone says the health is the priority. No one actually treats it like that. But the reason why health should be like close to the top of your list, and you know, it should be something you genuinely really look into, is because the higher your health, like the better your health, the more brain points that you start with per day. So someone who's got depression, anxiety, who's also kind of fat, who's got like poor physical health, poor gut health, he's going to start with like 15 points per day. And then think about how he's going to get himself out of that rut now. I think that's why it's so hard, because when you start with like 10, 20 brain points per day, and it still takes like 10 or 20 to even hit a workout, those guys are screwed. They're in a horrible cycle. So right now, if you're somewhat average, you know, you're like a young guy who doesn't really have any like proper health consequences, you've had, you know, some reasons to go to the doctor in the last few years, but generally you're just like, yeah, whatever. It's like health is the most important thing, but you don't actually treat it like that. You start with like 40, maybe 50, maybe 60 brain points per day. Genuinely. You know why? Just because you've lived like this for a while and you're used to your current state of health does not actually mean that you're healthy. The only like super good way to know if you're healthy is, in my opinion, to actually get data and tests on it. Now, that's anticlimactic because 99% of people will never go get like a health test or, you know, pay for like expensive equipment to test their levels in heart rate and HRV and everything. But the reason why I wouldn't just rely on how you feel is because I felt like I was healthy for a very long time. Literally, I genuinely still, if you asked me if I was healthy when I was 20 years old and I was out drinking twice a week and my diet was terrible, but like I was going to the gym and lifting some weights, I would have been like, yeah, I am healthy. If we tested my statistics then, like, and got data on my health, it would have shown that I wasn't. but I would have considered that I was, just because that's how I was living for a while. And it was like, yep, you're just kind of used to it. You don't really, like, most people aren't actually aware that their health isn't that good up until they have like a big health scare. Then you start to realize, oh yeah, I need to improve my health. But for example, there's research that shows that once you've been sleep deprived for a little while, you actually kind of lose sight of it, and you start to feel like you have slept enough, even though you're operating at like 20% less of your like effectiveness. And so this, I think, is the same for health just in general. So right now, you don't actually genuinely know if you're healthy or not unless you've actually got like quantifiable data in front of you where you can see like, okay, this is how long I slept for recently. Oh, the last week it's went down, or the last week it's went up, and this is what my genes are like. So when it comes to eating food, I literally know exactly what kind of food is going to be bad for me. Now, pretty much no one's going to go, less than 1% of people are actually going to go to the extent of like finding these things out for themselves. So just kind of keep this in your mind. The healthier you are, the more brain points that you start with per day. And remember those things that you've heard about. Eat cleaner, lower your stress, have less alcohol and drugs, and sleep better. You've always heard these like health things, right? I'm not going to like push them onto you like incredibly heavily here. What I could just recommend is the podcast by Dr. Andrew Huberman. You can search him up on YouTube. Massive podcast. His podcast is pretty much like the science-based techniques on improving your health, and I've learned a lot from him. So what I would do is I'd literally just watch, like fully, don't skip around or anything, of his podcast of a topic that interests you. So he's got health, he's got testosterone, he's got dopamine, he's got diet and muscle and all these ones, right? And just commit yourself to like watching one fully and really trying to practically improve it. And when you get more into like a specific part of health, so inside of health is your physical health, your gut microbiome, your sleep, your diet, all this stuff, right? When you focus just on one, you realize that there's so much more that you can actually improve on, which is a good thing, because it means that the more you improve, let's say, especially with sleep, the higher you start with your brain points per day, which just means you can just get more done. And of course, you don't want to waste those brain points doing the same things. You want to change the way that, you navigate life. You don't want to be checking your phone first thing in the morning. But just see if you can improve your health. Any improvement to your health will increase how many brain points you start with, which is awesome.